Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly. This is The Real Sports Talk. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today I'm joined by Justin Godsey, the co-host here on The Real Sports Talk. And Justin, while it's unclear what Mark Sanchez's future exactly is, whether he will be released or just be the backup for the New York Jets, a lot of people are talking like it's a done deal that he's going to get released, and I don't think anyone said that. I think Manish Mehta, who writes on the Jet Stream, which is part of the New York Daily News, I've actually talked to him a few times. He's a pretty nice guy. He reported today that the Jets, including Rex Ryan, they've discussed this throughout the organization. This decision on the starting quarterback position is coming down to Rex Ryan, who reportedly is going to name Geno Smith the starting quarterback, which would all but end the Mark Sanchez era in New York. And quite honestly, part of me says, well, it's about time. And then the other part, Justin, says that Geno Smith did not play better than Mark Sanchez in the preseason. And regardless of what has happened in the past, Mark Sanchez performed better in the preseason, and by Rex Ryan's own words, he said Geno Smith was brutal in practice that day. Why he said that, I will never know. He said that. I don't understand why he made comments like that if he was leaning towards making Geno Smith the starting quarterback. I don't know why they brought Mark Sanchez back at all, really, if they were leaning towards making Geno Smith the quarterback, because if you're going to have a starting quarterback competition, then it needs to be fair. It needs to be whoever plays better is the starting quarterback. And clearly to me, that's not what happened here. And I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with that, because I don't think anyone feels like Mark Sanchez is going to do anything and has been anything besides a bust as an NFL quarterback. But the bottom line is that he did not play better than Geno Smith. Geno Smith did not, or he did play better than Geno Smith. Geno Smith did not look ready in the preseason to be an NFL starting quarterback. And if they didn't want to bring him back, then they should have released him in the offseason, because it doesn't matter how much money he's making or how much of a cap hit it would have been on the team, because the bottom line is he's going to be holding a clipboard now, so that's still a bunch of wasted money.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, Tim. We're in the rising action of the Mark Sanchez saga, because when you look at it, the Jets still have 4 quarterbacks on their roster. Mark Sanchez, Geno Smith, they recently signed, former Green Bay Packers quarterback Graham Harrell, and then you got the greatest development quarterback that you can still work under, and that is Matt Sims, Phil Simms' son. Now, Matt Sims, Tim, I'm going to give you the credit here and say Matt Sims really it was a really back and forth game against the Eagles, but Matt Sims, I don't mean to disrespect you at all, but they really put a shellacking on your Eagles, Matt Sims did. Yeah. But you know what? When it goes to Mark Sanchez, the only way to blame right now is, I'm going to have to, tear apart this offensive line, because the offensive line put the Jets in the situation where they are now. They didn't give Mark Sanchez the opportunity to, extend the play, which causes injury, which is going to hold him out for a couple of weeks in the season. So right now, the Jets are still discussing on what it is what's going to be playing out here. Are they going to let Graham Harrell go? Are they going to keep Mark Sanchez to hold that clipboard like you said, Tim? Are they going to let Matt Sims go, which honestly I think is going to be the most stupidest thing, because that guy overachieved in what the Jets thought he would do against the Philadelphia Eagles? Or, you're going to keep a Geno Smith as your starting quarterback, which, I think is going to be the best route for them right now, because I think Geno Smith gives them that opportunity to really step up and win games. Mark Sanchez, over the past couple of years, let's take a trip down memory lane here. When you look at the New York Jets, this is not the New York Jets team as we once saw. We saw the New York Jets a few years ago who went back-to-back AFC Championship games. Big ups to their defense, but the offense was just so mediocre. Yeah. You had to depend on that defense. Mark Sanchez has not excelled in his NFL career to really make him to be, a mid-elite quarterback. It's the guy who still has not proved us yet.
And Justin, I think the one thing, I don't mean to cut you off, I'll let you finish, but I do want to make one point about what you just said about the back-to-back AFC Championship games. People were like, well, he started his career with back-to-back AFC Championship games, and he beat Tom Brady, and he beat Peyton Manning, and he made some big throws in those games, don't get me wrong, but people talk like he transcended the game and lit the world on fire and played like Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin or Russell Wilson or any of these actually elite rookie quarterbacks did, or Colin Kaepernick, who wasn't a rookie, but you get my point, over the last 2 seasons when he went to those AFC Championship games, and it couldn't be further from the truth, because Mark Sanchez had a stacked defense, he had more more interceptions than touchdowns, and he had Thomas Jones, who at the time, for the first season, Thomas Jones was still really good then, and I think letting him go was the biggest mistake they made. And then that second season, they had LT at the end of his career, and they had Sean Green, who in his rookie season actually was not bad for the Jets. So Mark Sanchez really has never done anything for the Jets, and actually, as far back as I can think, I don't remember him doing much in his college career besides a big bowl game against Penn State. But other than that, he underachieved in his college career too.
You know, I honestly, the reason how I heard of Mark Sanchez was the week of the draft. I didn't hear of Mark Sanchez at USC. I know he will play at USC, or USC, I almost said UFC there. But, you know, Mark Sanchez has really risen up to this fame that he's all hype right now. I can't really, you know, pinpoint on what we're to expect from Mark Sanchez this coming year, because honestly, it's just going to be a bad Mark Sanchez due to this injury. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Geno Smith is that guy to take over, and this is the future which is going to give, and you know what, the Geno Smith era is starting right now. And honestly, you know, I wasn't a big fan of Geno Smith throughout his throughout his college and high school years. You know, he seemed to have a promising, you know, college career from his high school film. Watching him through college, I still wasn't the biggest fan of him. But you know what? I honestly think that when you look at Geno Smith heading into the future, a guy has really improved. I'll give him the credit where credit is due. His arm strength is incredible. You know, he's not the fastest scrambling quarterback out there, but he does give you the opportunity to, you know, extend the play. And that's always a good trait in the NFL today. Scrambling quarterbacks is the future of the National Football League. And Geno Smith, Colin Kaepernick, these are the guys to lead the charge into the future. Geno Smith, honestly, the receiving core right now is another big question for the New York Jets, because Santonio Holmes is gone, Dustin Keller is gone, and then what else is left for you guys?
Well, Santonio Holmes is there, but he has a lot of injury.
He's injured,
yeah. So I mean, you don't have him. You're bringing in Chris Ivory as the running back, who
and he hasn't really done anything for the team either.
He showed flashes with the Saints, but he has never been even close to being a feature running back. So I don't know about that. And that's the one thing people always say this about Mark Sanchez, is that these last 2 years it hasn't really all been his fault, and that part is true. That Mark Sanchez has not had good weapons about him. I don't think anyone really acts like he has, but the bottom line is he hasn't been good over the last 2 years, and them going in another direction, yeah, ultimately it does make sense. I don't know why they didn't do it in the offseason, because Geno Smith, to me, showed in the preseason he wasn't ready to be a starting quarterback. To me, right now, I would just name Graham Harrell the starting quarterback, if I got to be honest with you, Justin, because I know he's brand new to the system with Marty Morningwig. I know it probably would be ugly, but you either have the choice of going with Sanchez, which they decided not to do, or going with Geno Smith and potentially ruining his NFL career with zero weapons around him right now, literally zero weapons on that offense, and just a disaster team. Or you could wait for a season, let him sit for a season, and people that say that sitting on the bench you don't learn, that couldn't be further from the truth, that you don't learn in practice and that you don't learn just holding the clipboard and getting a visual of what it takes to succeed in the NFL. That is not true, just because certain people have succeeded. And to me, I think that the Jets are really hurting his NFL career by starting him this year, because I think it's a situation where they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're going to be picking in the top 5, and that already starts off Geno Smith with a negative reputation. I think we saw from the preseason games that he just was not ready, and I don't see him having a very good NFL career, to be honest with you. I think when I saw him in the draft, I had mixed feelings about Geno Smith, because he underachieved in his senior year. He was horrible in their bowl game, and there were still certain teams, I know a lot of people talked about they liked his leadership aspects, and that's something that you can't teach, and that is very important to have. But he wasn't great in college. He was terrible in his bowl game. And I think that there were certain situations, like had he gone to Philadelphia with Chip Kelly, had he gone to Cleveland with Norv Turner coaching that offense, then maybe things could have worked. But I don't like Marty Morningwig's system. I think he's going to, if I learned anything from watching him for 7 or 8 years as the Eagles offensive coordinator, it's that he's going to throw the ball more than he runs it. And at this point, I don't think Geno Smith is ready to do that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Geno Smith, you know, right now for me, if you put it down on the table, you got 4 quarterbacks on your roster. You got Graham Harrell, Matt Sims, Geno Smith, and Mark Sanchez. And, you can really, honestly, the Jets are going to make that ultimate decision. Who's going to be that quarterback to go? Graham Harrell, he's learned under the best quarterback in the National Football League for Aaron Rodgers for the past few years now. Mark Sanchez has underimproved in his NFL career throughout every time that he's gone to. He's always relied on that defense in the early days from 2009 and 2010, and then the past 2 years has been just the ultimate disappointment for this Jets team. But Mark Sanchez, this team still has to make that ultimate decision. Then you got Geno Smith, the future of this team. But you know what? When you look at Geno Smith, and you really made up some good points on how bad he was in his bowl game out for West Virginia. Geno Smith wasn't overall a bad college quarterback. He was a great college quarterback. But you know what? At the conclusion of his career at West Virginia, it really sealed the deal. And I honestly think when you look at Geno Smith, his last 4 games at West Virginia, it would ultimately be his demise because Geno Smith really underimproved, really disappointed a lot of us, and it really hurt his draft stock. And honestly, when you look at Geno Smith, if that guy was to over and become all those odds in college at the conclusion of his college career, those final 4 games, including the bowl game, Geno Smith would no doubt in my mind be a top 5 draft pick in this past draft. But you know what? The way that he played, the way that he performed, he had Tavon Austin, a guy who everybody's cherishing to be, the guy, the man, the receiver in St. Louis. Geno Smith didn't really capitalize on it because, his performance under-displayed in his final 4 games at West Virginia. And then he's coming over to the, New York Jets, where honestly, I would rather have, the receivers at West Virginia be the receivers here in the New York Jets because, like Tim said, there is no targets for Geno Smith to throw to. The best receivers that you got is Santonio Holmes, Mohamed Massaquoi, who's coming over from the Jaguars, who has recently been cut by the Jaguars. Then you got Clyde Gates. I mean, who's Clyde Gates? Ben Obamanu. Who are these guys? And it's not giving them the opportunity, not giving them the deep threat receivers, because who is your deep threat besides Santonio Holmes? You really need someone else to really step up and really help them out. You got Stephen Hill, but you know what? His time at Georgia Tech, it was fantastic. Last year, it was bad for Stephen Hill. This guy needs to improve, needs to step up, and honestly, right now, the Jets are going into the 2013 season on a drastic note for failure. I'm not here to bash it, but you know what? This is what is at hand right now. They do not have the offensive line. The defense has been depleted. The offensive line is not giving them the opportunity, and this is why the New York Jets, going into the 2013 NFL season, is destined for a disappointing year. And I'm not here to bash on the Jets fans. I'm just giving you guys the straight facts and what I'm looking at right now. And you know what? This team is destined to go at least a 6-win to a 5-win team, at worst. Because what I'm seeing right now, this is it.
To be honest with you, I'd be surprised if they won 6 games. I think they're a 3 or 4-win team. I think that Geno Smith is really going to struggle in his first season in the NFL. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I liked him heading into his senior year, and he disappointed me there. So we'll end up seeing what happens with Geno Smith. I think that the only player, when I look around the Jets roster, that I am sure is going to be a really good NFL player or even be in the NFL in 5 years is D. Milner. Other than that, I don't look at this roster and think, wow, I need this guy on my team. I want the Eagles, who I'm a fan of, I want them to go pick this guy up. And believe me, the Eagles could use a lot of help defensively. And still, when I look around in the Jets, there's not much. I mean, Darrelle Revis covered up a lot of the holes on that defense. He's gone. And while I think D. Milner is going to be a really solid NFL player, to expect him to be Darrelle Revis, especially in his rookie year, is not realistic. Either way, Geno Smith likely to be the starting quarterback for the Jets. Mark Sanchez, whether his career's over now, whether he plays out this season holding a clipboard, whatever the case is, his Jets career is pretty much over at this point. So that's to at least the happiness of a lot of Jets fans. So let us know what you guys think about this entire deal with Mark Sanchez, with Geno Smith. How will Geno Smith perform this season and throughout the course of his NFL career? And what happens to Mark Sanchez? Because I still think he could be a good backup if he goes somewhere else and is in a good system. So let us know what you think. Hit us up on Twitter at DJustinGodsey, at CashKelly_TRST, Facebook.com/TheRealSportsTalk, Section215.com. And we'll catch you guys next time.